Okay, we are going to go ahead and do installation of grid infrastructure on a standalone server. Now, I have staged my binaries on this particular location on a server which has IP address 192.168.1.177, and at this location, if you see, I had the binaries for grid, and once I unzip it, I have this folder created grid. So I will go into this, change my directory into grid, and again if I list the file, these are the files which will help us in installing grid binaries. Okay, first need to check if my display is set. So xlog command confirms that. Now I'm run the run installer. Okay, so once I enter this, it's going to check for temp space, swap space, and then it's going to launch the OUI, which is Oracle Universal Installer. Okay, minimize this window, minimize this window. Let's see. Okay, so in the first screen that we are greeted in the grid installation, we notice that it's asking if you want to be notified about the software update. So I'll just skip this one and click next. All right, and this next screen gives us an option about what we want to do. Do we want to install the for a cluster or for a standalone server, or do we want to upgrade our grid infrastructure software, or we want to only install grid infrastructure software? But I'll go ahead and select the second option, wherein we are installing and we are going to configure ASM. So this option is what we are going to go ahead with. Next screen is about the language that we want to select. It's English, so we'll give it easy. Now, in here we see that the next screen is asking us what is the disk group name that we want to give. It could be anything. I can give it as data, or it can give it as anything. Disk group one. So let's just keep that as data, okay? And then the next field is redundancy, about how do you want our data in our disks to be treated as. They could have a redundancy of high, meaning you will have two failure groups, meaning if one disk group, the disk will be getting mirrored into some other disk failover group, so you will have the disks very safe. Even if one goes bad, you can rely on the other failure group to come up with. The problem, or not the problem, but the challenge is you need to have twice the number of disk space if you want to configure it in redundancy with high. In normal, you'll at least have another failure group. Okay, these are both meant to provide failover option. If something goes wrong with first failure group, then you will have a second failure group wherein you still have the disk intact, and you will be able to have your storage intact. But we'll go with external. Let's just keep this. Now it says like please specify unique disk groups. Let's see all the disk groups here. Okay, I think from the previous part the member and okay, let me just change this to DG1. Okay, DG1 and candidate disk. Let's go with disk 3 as the candidate disk for that disk group. So of all the disks that are available, I'll go ahead and select one of them, disk 3, and then. But when you see all this, yeah, actually from what we did earlier, we had a grid installation, and the disk 1 and 2 are showing as member. They were actually belonging to the data disk group that we created. Now we need to basically erase the header, create it again. So I can basically go back and format the disk and bring it. But for now, I'm just concentrating and getting this thing done in a straightforward manner. Let's assume that we have two disks available. We are giving the disk group name as DG1 and so selected one. Out of 4, you already configured 2. I had used that earlier because it is used, it is showing as member. Even though this does not exist now, it is showing. So how can we find it out? It's a member. The header, Oracle software is reading it, the header of that disk, and because it was used earlier, that's why it's showing as member. Whereas those which were not used earlier are showing as the member. It was showing in the
interface?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all disk, you can see the status here as member.
Member, oh,
Okay, so that's the reason we are not able to select that. I just
so whenever we see the member, we cannot use that.
member means, as the name suggests, it is part of something. Okay, when you're saying it's a member of parliament, he's part of a parliament, right? So he's already a member of it, a member of a party or something.
It is already configured. We cannot use it.
Yeah, it is already being in use, not just configured, but it's also being in use. So we cannot, we don't want to use, or we'll be ending up overwriting data into that disk.
Okay.
Okay, so for now, just let's pick up the candidate disk. Oracle disk 3 is available, and I'll select that and then go to the next. In here it is asking what is the password that you want to set. You can save it in a different way, or you can have it in, you can use the same password. I'm just going with the same password for all these administrative accounts. It will give a warning, and I'll ignore that warning. I'll say yes, I want to continue with that. So and then I click next.
There's a
And
common warning, or you password, that's why you're getting.
no, I mean, as I said, like, uh, Oracle recommends that use separate passwords for all these accounts.
Yeah, that's why you're getting,
Yeah,
because you're using the same
right,
password.
right.
But usually, if we use a different, we cannot get the.
Oh, of course not. Okay. So then I click next. In this, I'm just selecting the groups for who has ASMDBA account, who has which users belong to ASMDBA, and then which users can have ASM operator privilege and ASM administrator privilege. In here, I'm just, for simplicity, I'm giving same OS group. If any user, say there is a user XYZ on operating system that belongs to a user group O install, they will be able to have the ASM operator privilege, ASM administrator privilege. Again, there are differences between what these privileges are. Some of them are ASMDBA is like the super user kind of a thing. ASM operator will have few less privileges, and then ASM administrator for something else. We can go to the documentation to get more details on this. So I'll just say yes. Now here, Oracle base, it has taken this value. For the software location, I'm going to use this location, user on app, Oracle product 11.2.0 grid. Before we select this location, we need to be sure that the OS has this location, and then it has enough space in it. Now, it's it has accepted those. If there is something wrong with it, then it will give a warning there. Now in here, what it is doing is it is running the prerequisite check. What does it do as a part of prerequisite check? It will check if the packages, OS packages that are installed, are as per the requisites to be met by Oracle. It will check if the kernel parameters are set. It will check for shell limits being set. So here we get, like, there are two packages which are missing. But again, we can ignore this for now. In real time, you should check with your system administrator, let them know if a later version of this has already been installed. So if it is, then we can go ahead and do that. Some of the errors here we get, they can be fixed. So if we check this option, okay, fix and check again, which is grayed out here. Some of the errors which can be fixed, then you can just select that particular error and click on the fix and check again. It will run a script. I will try to set up the correct values and pass these values ahead. But for now, we'll just go ahead and ignore all. Okay. So and then I click next, and it says, it gives you a kind of a summary about what it's going to do. It says you are going to install grid infrastructure. Disk space should be 5.5 GB, but you have 9.04, so that's good enough. Then you are installing the, for the standalone server, you're installing the grid infrastructure. Then the base is this, home is going to be at this location, and where you're getting the run installer from, the source location is given in there. What are the privileged OS groups? We have given the O install as for all this OS DBA, OS Open, and OS ASM. And then what disk group have we created? DG1. It will have redundancy of external, and the disk which you have selected to be part of DG1 is Oracle disk 3. Okay, then I click on install. So now it's going to go ahead and install grid binaries in there, and then it will also do, as a part of this, it will copy some software files in the home that we have specified. U01 app, Oracle product 11 grid. It will install the software in there. That software will have, it's basically different directories and files in that particular location. So you can use that to manage your storage. That is what ASM is going to do. Automatic storage management, meaning Oracle is going to manage that. It is going to give you better performance by doing it. Okay, and then we see like this is like step-by-step process where it's preparing, it will copy files, it will link binaries, it will set up files, it will also set up the listener configuration in here. Okay, so we'll just wait till this goes ahead. Yeah, it's linking some binaries in there. Okay, so while we're running this, we're waiting for this, we've got this new dialog box which says that we need to run this script. So I'll open another session. Okay, now this one has to be done by root. Okay, in real time you will have a system administrator who would be uh, helping you out with running the script. So what is that script? It is at this location. We go to cd01 app oracle product. Okay, 11 to I took in grid. Okay. Uh, then I think what all right. All right. In we have this root.sh script here. Okay. So we can run that. It's going to ask like if you want to name the local bin directory, I just give the default yes. Okay. So it has it's going to run few additional configurations. Node, and it will add daemon into the init tab, which will allow whenever we restart the server, it will allow the grid resources to come up by itself. Okay. All right. So we can run out this and we can click OK on this. So it will go ahead with the next steps. It's here now. I was mentioning this earlier. Now it is updating the inventory, and it is now it has come to Net Configuration Assistant. Net Configuration Assistant is something that is the networking part of software installation, wherein you will have the listener being set up. Now, this listener will help the incoming connections to this server, and this can be used to connect to databases from clients. You can use Tor, SQL Developer, or any other application tools. So now, the last step of this is ASMCA, which is Automatic Storage Management. As a part of this, it will create an ASM instance, and it will use that disk group that we've just provided DG1, and allocate that storage under the management of Oracle. So once this is done, we'll have the installation complete, and then we can start using that storage for Oracle. Okay. All right, so here we're done with the infrastructure installation. So I think in the next part, we will go ahead and look for database software installation, and how we can create databases on which use ASMS storage.